Hello crafty friends, it's Donna here. Today I have an interactive card to share with you. It's got a pull slider and it's really hard to explain in words on a blog how to construct that, and so I thought a video would be a good idea just to show you what the back looked like and how things look when they're moving. The blog post that goes along with this video is part of a blog hop, and if you're watching this before April 1st, 2021, you can head over and leave a comment on that blog and be in the running for some prizes from both Heffy Doodle and from Pink & Mane. I'm using a combination of products from both companies today to make this card as part of that blog hop. So far you've seen me use masking to stamp a legless rabbit from the Love You stamp set from Pink & Mane. I've also used the border die from the Heffy Doodle Slimline pull tab dies to cut a piece of blue and a piece of green patterned paper from Pink & Mane's Hooray paper pack. My finished card size is 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and I've stuck my blue paper to the top of a panel which is that same size. I'm then marking the positions for my slits for my sliders. The top one is going to be 6 centimeters from the top, and the bottom two start at 1.5 centimeters from the bottom. I'm then going to take the central T-shaped bar and cut it out 3 times from heavy cardstock. As I learnt towards the end of this card, even 110-pound cardstock was not heavy enough for having this triple slider. It worked beautifully, and it's enough if you're going to use a single slider, but for additional sliders, extra reinforcement is needed at the back. The T-bar of this piece has 2 fold lines that get scored onto your paper, and so you can fold them in and then back out again to make a base to attach your sliding pieces to. Next comes the bit where I want you to do as I say and not as I did. I only cut my little tab for the slider piece from this front panel, and I forgot to cut it from the main card base, and I had to do that later with scissors. Next, I'm going to create a bar across the bottom of my card for the carrots to stick to. I'll save gluing them down until I'm sure of the right height. When I move the slider up and down, the paper behind is going to be visible, so I'm just attaching a little bit of that same blue paper to the slider mechanism, and later I'm going to attach some to the piece of card that sits behind the hole again, so that whether the slider is up or down, what's visible in that slider hole will still be just blue paper. Heffy Doodle has a sweet little stamp set called Pull Tab Add-ons, and I'm using one of the stamps from that set to stamp the word pull and cut it out with the matching die, which is in the Slimline pull tab dies that I've been using up until now. Next, I'm pushing the slider down to the very bottom of the slit and marking where to cut off the top of my pull tab. I'm marking just inside the top of the card so that by the time I add that little green end, it will be exactly flush with the top of my card. I'm stamping the legs so that they straddle the slit, and there's one leg on either side. This rabbit's body is very slightly smaller than the circle pull tab front, and so I'm just trimming that down a tiny bit so that there's no white overhang around the rabbit's body. Now to the back, and here's where we see the real nuts and bolts of the mechanics of this card. The first thing that I need to do is attach the 3 sliders to each other so that they function as one slider. And I've done that with 2 pieces of 110-pound cardstock, but then later I've had to go back and reinforce that with some heavier card. You'll notice that I'm switching backwards and forwards from the front to the back of the card. Sometimes that's to allow glue to dry. Sometimes it's because I need to think through each part before I do the next. And so I'm looking at the mechanics and then seeing how that will work on the front. I'm looking at what I want to happen on the front and then flipping over to work out how to make that happen. The sentiment from this card is in 2 parts. The word hello is cut out using Heffy Doodle's stitched alphabetas, and I've coloured a piece of white cardstock to cut those out from. And now you can see the type of reinforcement that was needed to make this slide properly with 3 separate sliders. Because of the 3 separate slits, the back needed to be actually quite rigid. Once the carrots were glued in place, I put a double layer of very thin foam tape around the outside on the back of the green piece, on both sides and on the bottom, and then stuck that to the card in such a way that the scallops would line up. The second part of the sentiment comes from a Pink & Main stamp set called Special Day, and I've cut that out with Pink & Main's sentiment strip dies. I've added a double layer of thin foam tape around the outside at the back to give everything enough height to be able to move freely, and now I'm attaching that to my card base. I'm going to leave you with some close-up pictures of the card, as well as a little bit of footage of another card that I made at the same time, using pretty much the same supplies, with the exception that the images came from the Gnome Matter What stamp set from Pink & Main. That's Gnome, G-N-O-M-E. This card uses a hinged slider, so that instead of moving from side to side, the images sway. If you've enjoyed this video, then clicking the thumbs up button will let me know, and if you'd like to see what's coming next, then feel free to subscribe. Don't forget that you can join in the blog hop before April the 1st over on my blog at donnaisplayingpaper.com and be in the running for those prizes if you'd like to do that. I'll leave a link to that blog post in the box below. Stay safe, everybody.